Hey guys, this is Sweet, and as promised, today you'll be getting my full PvP guide for Shadow Priest in Shadowlands. Before we get started, if you could quickly scroll down and hit subscribe, that would help me out a lot. And if at the end of the video you like it, please hit like. Earlier this week, you would have seen my weeks 1 to 3 Shadowlands PvP guide. This is the guide that you're going to be using after that 3 weeks that's going to send you on your way for the rest of Shadowlands. Now, the first topic of this guide is going to be Covenants. When it comes to Covenants, there is only one Covenant choice for Shadow Priest PvP, and that is Venthyr. Venthyr gives us two amazing abilities, one which is Door of Shadows, which is a Covenant-wide ability, and the second which is Mindgames, which works for only Shadow Priests. These are both amazing spells, and they're our obvious choice. If you are a PvEer, however, you should put more consideration into this because Venthyr is not best in slot for PvE. For those of you who don't know what these abilities do, Door of Shadows is essentially a 35-yard teleport on a 1.5 second cast, and Mindgames is a damage and healing reversal spell. While Door of Shadows is relatively straightforward, Mindgames has a little bit more intricacy to it. Mindgames can cause enemy damage to become friendly healing, or it can cause enemy healing to become enemy damage. To explain Mindgames a little bit better, if a warrior was attacking me and I used Mindgames on him, his damage would instead heal me. If I used it on an enemy healer and he was healing a friendly target, that healing would instead cause damage. That's why it's so versatile and it has two uses. Now, the reason I love Mindgames so much is that it has multi-uses. Let's say you're trying to kill a rogue and the rogue Cloak of Shadows. As a Shadow Priest, you can't do anything about this. However, now you can use Mindgames on that enemy healer so that none of his healing goes through in the Cloak of Shadows and you can get the kill straight after. With Covenants comes Conduits. Conduits are essentially permanent buffs to your spells that aid you in various situations or increase your damage. There are 3 conduit trees available for you in Shadowlands in the form of 3 different heroes. Luckily for us, the first hero unlocked is the PvP tree and the one that we will be sticking with through all of Shadowlands. As you can see here, our hero of choice will be Nadia the Mistblade. Within a conduit tree, there are 3 routes. One which will allow you to have 2 potency conduits, one that will allow you to have 2 finesse conduits, and one that will allow you to have 2 endurance conduits. We will always be picking the tree that allows us to have 2 potency conduits, as potency conduits are the ones that give you the most damage buff. The endurance and finesse conduits are also quite underwhelming. Jumping into our tree of choice. As you can see here, our first selection will be Shattered Perceptions. This buffs your Mindgames duration and damage. Our second choice, which is an automatic lock-in, will give your Door of Shadows a disorient effect when you land directly on a target. Keep in mind that although it says 6 seconds, this only lasts 3 seconds in PvP and breaks on damage. Our third choice and first and last finesse conduit will come in the form of Clear Mind, which reduces the mana cost of Dispel Magic, Purify, and Master Spell. This will aid our efficiency in dispelling targets throughout the course of a game. The fourth lock-in, which is Friends in Low Places, is mandatory and useless. Our fifth lock-in is going to be our first endurance conduit, Light's Inspiration. This will increase the heal provided by Desperate Prayer and is overall our best survivability option. As we head to the left now, you'll see that we're locking in Dissonant Echoes. While being able to use Void Bolt outside of Void Form is great for insanity generation, the real kicker is the damage boost it provides during Void Form. At rank 1, it provides a 35% increase to Void Bolt damage and is an insane choice for burst. And the final choice in the tree is called Familiar Predicaments. It reduces the duration of incoming interrupts, snares, and roots by 25%. It's a solid choice all around. So that's it for Covenants and Conduits. Next, our other Shadowlands feature, which is Legendaries. At this stage, there seems to be 2 standout Legendaries. Keeping in mind we can only equip 1 Legendary at this point, however, it's likely down the line we'll be able to equip 2. My personal choice is going to be Talbodar's Stratagem. It's great for PvP and it will also assist me in PvE quite a lot damage wise. It's also awesome for bursting your targets with instant cast Mind Blasts. For a more defensive pick, you can go with Cephasus, which is essentially a 50% uptime of plus 80 to your stats. It's also a 10% reduction to crowd control effects, which is awesome. This is a very safe pick and will work in all comps. While there are some other decent picks, these are the two that I can see being the meta for Shadow Priest unless changes are made. These will stay our two choices. However, if changes are made to these legendaries, I will make adjustments to this guide below in the comments. Next, I will quickly go over talents for those who haven't seen my other videos on this. Our first four choices will never change. To briefly summarize this, Unfurling Darkness gives you 3 dots, Intangibility gives you reduced CD on Dispersion and a heal, Misery applies both dots at once, and Psychic Horror is a 4-second stun. Coming into the level 40 row, you have two choices, Auspicious Spirits and Shadow Crash. Both of these talents are pretty good and you can pick whichever you like best. Shadow Crash, however, is another button to press, and if targets are moving, it can be very hard to aim, which is why my suggestion will be Auspicious Spirits. On the level 45 row, as of the 2nd of December, Void Torrent is absurdly broken and should be your lock-in if you're confident in your casting abilities. If you're someone who is constantly getting kicked, unable to fake, or versing a triple kick comp, I suggest locking in Damnation for on-demand Devouring Plague application. In our final row, Hungering Void is going to be the play. Hungering Void gives you a 5% damage buff in PvP, as well as an extension of your Void form, which in turn gives you 20% spell damage for longer. It's our strongest pick in this row for PvP. Moving on to PvP talents, these 3 talents must be locked in most of the time. That being Greater Fade, which is great for avoiding big damage and CC, Void Shift to swap health with a team member, and Lasting Plague, which doubles the length of your Devouring Plague, which also doubles the damage. If you're versing a Heavy Diseases Cleansing comp, you may like to drop this for Void Origins. Situationally against mages or warlocks, you may also like to drop Lasting Plague for Thought Steal to stop them casting Poly or Fear for 20 seconds. Moving on to gear, and gearing is easier than ever with the implementation of Blizzard's new Honor and Conquest system. You'll now be able to buy the majority of your gear from a vendor just by doing BGs or Arena. The stat priority is as follows. First, you'll aim for the most intellect possible, which means item level does matter. This rule only applies to main pieces, and you can drop item level for secondary stats on your necks, ring, or trinkets. Second, you'll look for haste, followed by verse, then mastery, and finally crit. You'll also want to run 2 vendor bought PvP trinkets so that you can capitalize on the 40% increase to the damage portion of versatility. This is a huge buff, and as a result, the value of versatility skyrockets over mastery in Arena. Next is general gameplay. You want to keep as many dots up as you can while generating insanity, sending out auspicious spirits, and using as many devouring plagues as you can to create pressure. It's important to point out that outside your burst window against druid, disc, and monk healers, the value of dispelling rather than doing damage goes up greatly and will often at times take priority over doing damage. Coming into our burst damage rotation, you want to start off by getting dots up on your enemies. Follow it up with a Shadow Fiend on your main target, a stun onto the enemy healer. Follow it up with a Power Infusion, Void Eruption, Void Bolt, Mind Games, Silence onto the healer, Void Bolt, Devouring Plague, Void Torrent, and then using your abilities as you would when they come up. Do your best to not cap on Insanity and use your Devouring Plagues when best suited. It's important to get as many Void Bolts as you can, so if it means wasting half a second and not casting so you can use it as soon as it comes up, then do that. As a general side note, the Shadow Priest PvP burst is hard to pull off without key bindings, focus macros, and arena target macros. So I will include a link below to my video on how to use keybinds and macros like a pro. So that's all I have time for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and a sub below, and any changes that need to be made to this guide will be done in the pinned post below. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.